All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I bet you felt, but maybe couldn't put your finger on. We're calling it the restaurant doppelganger effect.
You know that feeling, right? You walk into a supposedly new restaurant and it's like déjà vu. The menu, the taste, the whole vibe, it's all just a bit too familiar. So are restaurant owners all just secretly sharing the same Pinterest board? Not quite. The real story is actually way more fascinating.
Let's start with the Japanese-style pub, the Izakaya. You picture this master chef, a true artisan, crafting these unique, incredible dishes. But what we're seeing more and more is something else entirely. The modern Izakaya often has a chef who's really just an assembler. The flavors, totally standardized. And the restaurant itself, it feels less like a place of creation and more like just a point of sale.
So yeah, you're not imagining things. There's a hidden system, a kind of blueprint that's making all these places feel the same. And what's really wild is that this exact same blueprint connects those Japanese izakayas we just talked about to the massive boom in Chinese Malatang chains. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how it all works.
Okay, so here's the secret. It's called the central kitchen model. And I want you to just completely erase that image you have of a chaotic, bustling kitchen behind the scenes of every restaurant. Instead, picture a huge industrial factory. This is where all the real cooking, the complicated, time-consuming stuff gets done, long before the ingredients even get close to the restaurant.
So here's how it goes down. Step 1, the factory. This is where everything is prepped, cooked, and often flash frozen on a massive scale. We're talking hundreds of miles away sometimes. Then, step 2, the restaurant. The pre-made food arrives and the staff, and I hesitate to even call them chefs in this model, they just heat it up, put it on a plate, and serve it. It's really more of an assembly line than a kitchen.
This system is the exact reason for the explosive growth of those Malatang franchises you see everywhere. Think about it. The genius isn't in the fresh ingredients you pick out. Nope, it's all about the sauce. A standardized, pre-made sauce that comes from headquarters. It guarantees every single bowl tastes identical, no matter which location you go to. It's like one person said, it's not really a food business, it's a sauce business.
So why? Why is this industrial model taking over everything? Well, it's not because everyone suddenly decided they love factory food. It's a response. A survival tactic, really, born out of a perfect economic storm that's absolutely crushing restaurant owners.
First up, let's talk costs, specifically food costs. Over the past 5 years, while overall inflation went up, a pretty high 16%, the inflation for restaurant ingredients shot up by a staggering 25%. Can you imagine? Owners are getting squeezed by these skyrocketing costs in a way that most other businesses just aren't.
And if that wasn't enough, you've got the crushing cost of labor. Let's look at South Korea, for example. The minimum wage there jumped over 55% in just 8 years. And get this, there was one single year, 2018, where it jumped 16.4%. That's a massive shock to any small business. Suddenly, when you can't afford to hire a skilled chef anymore, that pre-made factory food starts to look like a pretty good option, doesn't it?
So what's the result of all this pressure? Well, it's pretty grim. In 2023, the restaurant closure rate hit an unbelievable 21.52%. Think about that. More than 1 out of every 5 restaurants went out of business. That's a higher failure rate than at the absolute peak of the pandemic. This economic storm isn't just a metaphor. It is real and it is brutal.
So, when you're facing all of that, this factory model looks like a lifeboat, right? An easy escape route. You get lower labor costs, your expenses are predictable, you don't even need to know how to cook. It seems totally foolproof. But here's the catch. It's a trap.
The very things that make this model seem so attractive are exactly what make it so dangerous. Think about it. Low barrier to entry sounds great, but it just means you're flooded with hyper-competition. A turnkey business solution is easy, but it means your restaurant has absolutely nothing that makes it different from the guys next door. And no cooking skills needed? That means you have no unique craft, no secret sauce, literally, to make you stand out.
It's a tragic irony, really. As one person put it, easy to start has become synonymous with easy to fail. When everybody is basically selling the exact same stuff from the exact same supplier's catalog, it just becomes a brutal race to the bottom on price. And in that race, nobody wins. Profits disappear,
And eventually, so do the businesses.
And all of this is fundamentally changing the entire restaurant scene. It's creating what you could call the disappearing middle. The market is splitting into two totally separate poles. On one end, you have a giant sea of these low-cost factory food chains. On the other, a tiny sliver of super high-end artisan dining experiences. And that spot in the middle, that affordable, independent neighborhood place with real character, it's just getting squeezed out.
For us, the customers, this creates what's really an illusion of choice. You open up a delivery app and you see dozens and dozens of different restaurant brands. But here's the secret. A lot of them are just different storefronts selling the exact same food from the exact same one or two massive suppliers. It looks like variety, but it's really just homogenization in disguise.
But people are catching on. The secret's out. Consumers are savvy, and they're asking, wait, why am I paying restaurant prices for something I know is factory-made? They've figured out they can go to a supplier and buy the exact same products for like a third of the price. This has sparked this whole home Izakaya trend, the home pub, and now even convenience stores are getting in on it, selling the same kind of meal kits. And this whole situation leads to the final, really ironic twist in the story. You could say there were two betrayals. The first betrayal was when restaurants started serving us, the diners, factory food without telling us. But that just set the stage for the final and maybe even more brutal betrayal. The suppliers, the very companies that created this whole system, well, they've pivoted. They looked at their business and realized that selling to restaurants, B2B, is actually pretty unstable. Because as we saw, restaurants go out of business all the time. But selling directly to you and me, the B2C market, that market is massive and way more stable. I mean, consumers don't go out of business, right? So now these suppliers are competing directly with the restaurants they used to just supply. It puts those small restaurant owners in a truly impossible spot.
So look, this whole story isn't really just about Japanese pubs or Chinese noodle bowls. It's a snapshot of something much bigger, the industrialization of our entire food culture. There's this saying in Korea now that if a restaurant's food isn't noticeably better than a pre-made product from the store, it's just not going to survive. That line between a restaurant meal and something you pull from the supermarket freezer aisle, it's getting blurrier and blurrier every day.
And that leaves us with a final, kind of uncomfortable thought. We, as consumers, wanted cheaper food. We wanted it to be convenient. We voted with our wallets, again and again, for cheap and fast. So now, as we look around at this landscape of identical, factory-made meals, you kind of have to ask yourself, is this the future we actually chose? Thanks for tuning in.